Hello there, peoples, and welcome back. If you've been paying attention to the activity on the channel here in the early days of what's going on, you know what's going on, you know who it is. And today we'll continue our look by looking at all of the resistance and first order changes. Yeah, we're looking at two factions today just because they're smaller factions, so in order to keep things at least somewhat decently long, but not too long, or just have a bunch of splintered videos that would kind of just be kind of pathetic, I'm combining these two into one. And then for the Republican Separatists, I'm going to be mixing those into a video along with all the generic upgrades. But let's cut the crap right now and just get straight into the things for the First Order and Resistance, starting with all of the upgrades that change. And when I say upgrades, I mean upgrade, because only one upgrade changed between the two factions, and that was General Hux, which went down from 10 to 6. Now, I am completely in agreement with this change because Hux's ability is powerful, admittedly, because coordinating multiple ships, that's pretty potent. But it is not worth the price point of Palpatine, or close to Palpatine, Snoke, and Vader. As such, this going down makes sense to keep it at a level where it should be for what it offers. But with First Order these days, you don't tend to see a swarm that could benefit from this, or just you've never really seen a swarm out of First Order. It's generally Quick Draw, possibly Midnight, and then a couple of other aces out of the Silencer or the FO, so not really swarm material. Now, if Hux was an Imperial upgrade, I'd say, okay, maybe you could throw him on a Reaper with a couple of TIE Interceptors or something, and then that would be a nice option. But with First Order, the Upsilon is just too expensive to be able to fit Hux on him and then have a somewhat decent swarm, because TIE FOs are still kind of expensive right now. So I like the change, but I honestly don't think it would help Hux, and that's a shame, because this is honestly one of my more personal favorite upgrade cards out of the game at the moment. It's just such a great effect that can really change the face of how you perform your actions in a round. And the fact that it really doesn't have a faction that it will be able to support it well, it's a real shame. So that's really it for the singular upgrade. So now let's move over to the ships, because everything saw changes between the two factions in terms of ships. So while we're talking about Hux, we might as well start talking about all the First Order ships. So starting off with the standard TIE FO. All of these are going down except for Null, who is staying at his 31 points. Now this makes sense. Being able to stay at Initiative 7 for quite a bit is a inherently powerful effect, and really didn't need to go down in points. So fair enough as to why that stayed where it is. As for the rest of them, though, all of these were going down. So starting off, Midnight going down by 1 point from 44 to 43. Just for the record, I may accidentally call this Omega Leader since it has the same effect as First Edition's Omega Leader. And in fact, I think Midnight is classified as Omega Leader in his character subtitle. But this is an extremely potent effect for those of you who have never played against it. I have in both First and just First Edition, actually, but it's the same in Second Edition. And it's not a fun time. So this definitely needed to stay in the mid-40s in terms of its price point. It dropping by 1 point opens up maybe an extra option for like a tech slot or something. But I like the change, but it's not really going to make too much of an impact in the end of things. Commander Malarius is going down from 41 to 39. And for the record, I've only really paid attention to Midnight and Null's effects, so I'm actually reading some of these for the first time. At the starting engagement phase, you may gain 1 charge and gain 1 stress token. If you do, until the end of the round, while you defend or perform an attack, you may change. Whoa, okay, that's an interesting effect. So I mean, it's okay, but probably wasn't seeing a whole lot of play due to the fact that the TIE FO probably had a very limited maneuver dial. Yeah, all of its 2 maneuvers are blue except for its sloops, and then it has a 3 straight. So it's kind of limiting, so it's probably hard to pull off in terms of firing off the ability consistently, but it going down maybe opens up room for something like prime thrusters, so that way it isn't hampering you too much. So, yeah, that's okay. Then we move over to Scorch. While you perform a primary attack, if you're not stressed, you may gain a stress token to roll an additional attack die. Similar argument with Malaris, excuse me. So he's Scorch, by the way, is going down from 35 to 34, in case I didn't mention that already. But Scorch, Again, opens up more room for prime thrusters just so taking a stress token isn't too impactful. So I like that change. Then we move to static. While you perform a primary attack, you may spend your lock on the defender and a focus stroke. Okay, so it's the old Omega Ace effect. So this I'm familiar with. Now, I did play around with this in first edition a little bit. I haven't gotten the chance to try it in second edition yet. But it is actually, it's a great effect if you can trigger it. Now, the problem is that it really kind of relies on coordinating, and considering the Upsilon is a very hefty points investment, and it's the only coordinating platform that the First Order has at the moment, it's kind of a hefty investment if you want to try to fire off Static's ability as frequently as you can. Now, if you can somehow minimize the amount of points you're spending on the Upsilon, kudos to you, but that's kind of hard to do since most of the pilots are either in the low 50s or, no, not low 50s, high 50s or mid 60s, more likely towards the mid 60s range. I don't remember them off the top of my head. Yep, all of them are in the mid 60s, except for Dormits, because Dormits. But yeah, so it going down maybe opens up a couple of extra wiggle points in order to get an Upsilon in there, but we'll see about that one. Long shot, while you perform an attack at range 3, roll 1 additional die. Good effect. It going down from 33 to 32 helps open up maybe a couple of things. I'm not too sure what, though, exactly, but good change. And I forgot to mention, but Static's also going down from 35 to 34, similar to Scorch. We then move over to the generic Omega Squadron Ace, going down from 31 to 29. Again, having the generics as cheaper options definitely opens up room to possibly get some more stuff on them if you're trying to do like an Upsilon with 3 TIFO build or something and trying to take advantage of Hux, but we'll see how that goes. And that opinion also applies to the Zeta Squadron Pilot, which is going down from 29 to 27, and the Epsilon Squadron Cadet, which is going down from 28 to 26. Now, I will mention here, maybe if they had dropped to 25 for the Epsilon and like 1 point lower for each of them, I might be making an argument for it. But similar to the Mining Guild tie, these are definitely better than the standard Imperial tie, so they definitely should have a higher price point. So I'm not too mad about them dropping only by 2 points each. Keeping on with the uniques, we then have Muse, and him in conjunction with Static and Longshot definitely is a nice thing, and him going down just to allow more wiggle room to allow, actually not Static, Scorch, excuse me. I think Scorch, yeah, Scorch. Or not Longshot, Malarius, oh my god, I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, Malaris and Scorch in combination with Muse. Yeah, Muse, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But yeah, those three together could be actually a pretty fun combo. And now that all of these dropped, you might be able to squeeze all three of them in a list with an Upsilon. In fact, let me check that right now. Okay, so after running the numbers, it turns out that Muse, Malaris, Scorch, and a Starkiller base pilot with Hux adds up to 168 points, so that could be a list option in the future. It's one I'll be testing once I get my hands on some components for the Upsilon, as well as a third TIFO. So, the change for Muse, I like it, but only if that list becomes viable. Otherwise, it's not really that good. Then TN3456, or 3465, that's a mouthful. While another friendly ship performs an attack, if you're at range 0 to the 1. Okay, so it's sort of like a selfless, oh wait, no, it's, while a friendly ship performs an attack, so. Yeah, that one went down from 31 to 29. Definitely should have, because an ability that basically puts you at a more vulnerable situation in terms of being fired at definitely should be cheaper, just because it's gonna get blown up, guaranteed. But this effect I don't really like, because regular TIE fighters, as it is, are already extremely vulnerable to crits, and adding a shield really isn't gonna help it in that case. So the change is nice, but it's not really gonna help. And then finally, Lieutenant Rivas, after our ship at range 1 to 2 gains an orange or red token. If you do not have that ship locked, you may acquire a lock on that ship. Okay, that's interesting. So, just being able to maybe have some stress dealing effects, assuming First Order has any of those, and messing around with this could be fun. And if they do have those stress or like jamming or tractor beam effects, maybe this is good, but otherwise, the drop from 30 to 28 really isn't going to help it. So that's the TIE FO fighter. So then moving over to the TIE SF, all of these are going down except for Quick Draw, who's staying at 45. Makes sense, he's really the only pilot that was seeing play in terms of the TIE SF, so makes sense they would keep him where it is. Then we move over to Backdraft, who dropped from 41 to 39. Again, he's actually a pretty good attacker. It's just you have to be able to accept the fact that you're going to have to essentially play the mouse in a cat and mouse situation for the entire game with him if you want to maximize his effect, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, but sometimes it can be hard to pull off, especially if your opponent manages to throw like a Talon Roll or something and block your path and then just kill box you from there. So the drop is nice, and despite what I just said, I think this will actually allow Backdraft to see some more play. And in terms of the generics, the Omega Squadron Experts going down from 36 to 34, and the Zeta Squadron Survivor from 34 to 32. Now, these dropping 2 points opens up a bit more wiggle room for a missile to, or a fire control system, actually, more realistically. But compared to Backdraft and Quick Draw, there's really no use for these guys. I would say maybe as a low initiative blocker, but you don't use a specialist ship as a blocker, except for an A-Wing, but even then that's technically an interceptor, not a specialist ship. So just ignore what I'm saying there. So not really a fan of these going down because it's really not going to help them a whole lot. If they dropped them a bit more, maybe I'd be making an argument for it, but that's unfortunately not the case here. Then moving over to the Silencer, everything except Kylo is seeing a change, and it's Kylo, so he's inherently going to have a higher price point just because I'll show you the dark side. It is still a pretty potent effect, just being able to fish for whatever crate you feel like. As for the rest of them, Blackout's going down from 64 to 63. Gives you a slight bit more room for Trick Shot, just because him and Trick Shot is amazing. Albeit it's only one of the few things that can actually take Trick Shot, so. And, I mean, it's okay. Maybe it'll allow him to see play, maybe it won't. That one's still up in the air. Recoil going down from 59 to 58. While you're being stretched, treat your enemies in your front arc as being in your bullseye. Ooh, that's actually, that's an effect I just read for the first time. So that's interesting, but I don't think at the current price point there's enough wiggle room to throw any support in that you need in order to get his ability to fire off as frequently as possible. So at the moment, I'm not really optimistic about him seeing play, but maybe down the line if we get some new First Order stuff, that'll change, or the meta shifts in a way that favors self-stress, or stress-dealing effects become popular or more apparent in the game, but we'll see what happens there. Then the First Order Test Pilot Generic is actually staying where he is, too, at 58, so I missed that when I was originally looking through the list. Avenger, going down from 58 to 57. It's nice, but again, First Order is a very elite faction, meaning it has very few ships on the board. And as such, Avenger's ability will only get to fire off once or twice a game unless you're taking a swarm of TIE FOs, which really isn't optimal due to the fact that they aren't able to put out enough firepower to really take something down. Now, with an Imperial TIE Swarm, you can get away with it because they have Hellrunner, and you could possibly throw an Interceptor in there or something. But with the First Order, the TIE FOs don't have that, and it just really hurts Avenger as such. And then finally, the Sinar Jameis Engineers going down from 52 to 51. It's a PS1 Interceptor generic. I mean, it's okay as a low initiative blocker that can fly around in unpredictable patterns, and as such, maybe it sees play, but I still think it's a little too expensive for that role. Maybe if it drops to like 48, I'll be making an argument for it, but we'll see what happens in 6 months when FFG gives out their January 2020 points update. So that's everything for the Silencer. And last but not least, we have the Upsilon Shuttle, and everything here is going up, actually. I almost said down, but everything is going up except for Lieutenant Dormitz, who's staying at his 70, just obviously because, like, he didn't really need to go up any higher, because where he is right now is preventing the triple Upsilon bills that were ruling for a bit, so that's nice. So in terms of everything going up, Captain Cardinal from 64 to 65, while friendly ship arranged 1 to 2 with lower initiative. Okay, so definitely an interesting effect. Not too sure why this one went up, because really the best pilots for First Order right now were Midnight and Quick Draw, and they're pilot skill 6s, so they really can't take advantage of this effect. So this is one I'm not too sure on, and especially considering the fact that, oh wait, you don't actually have to spend a charge. Never mind. So I was about to say something about spending only 2 charges per game, but That's not how the effect works, because I cannot read, apparently. Major Strident going up from 63 to 64. 1 point difference because being able to treat friendly ships at range 2 to 3 as being at range 0 or 1. Interesting effect, and it was one that I used quite frequently in first edition, and definitely prevents you from abusing it too much, but not enough to make sure that it stops seeing play. So this change, I mean, I don't like it going up, but I like the fact that they are adjusting it slightly to prevent it from being abused too much. Then Lieutenant Tavson is going up from 62 to 64. Now, this one also I'm not too sure on, just because I don't think he was really seeing too much play, just because it encourages you to take damage, and the whole point of the game is to try and not take damage, so that essentially makes him a bit of a hypocrite in terms of the grand philosophy of the game, so not too sure why they brought him up. Dormitz, I already mentioned he's staying the same. The generic Starkiller base pilot is going up from 56 to 58, probably to just prevent you from putting too much on it, and also making sure that you can't fit 2 of them with enough support in a list to support something like Quick Draw or Kylo or something like that. And then finally, Petty Officer Thanison going up from 60 to 62, and interesting effect, but I mean, in combination with whatever that one TIE-FO pilot was that dealt with effects that involved Lieutenant Rivas. I mean, it's interesting, but it's probably a bit too clunky for the price point it's at, so I'm not too sure about that one. So, and I know I give a lot of negative opinions, but again, I feel like FFG should be increasing in larger increments. But like I say, they're doing it in small increments to prevent the game from breaking open. So, yeah, that's the reason why I'm okay with being negative, because I know in the future they're going to hopefully fix things. So that is everything for the First Order. So now we move over to the Resistance. So we'll get this party started with the MG-100 or the BSF-17 or the Resistance Bomber, whatever you want to call this thing, I don't care. Anyways, so starting off, most of these are actually all of these are going down, excuse me. So Finch Dallow is going down from 66 to 64. Opens up a bit more room for bomb support on them, just because, again, their ability relies on bombs, but it is kind of a bit of risky just because you're placing the bomb next to you, or immediately next to you, touching you specifically. So not too sure about if that one's going to see play. Edon Capel is going down by the same point, 66 to 64, and yeah, those two are going down by the same amount, in case I didn't already mention Finch's. And Edon going down I like just because he's easily the best of the Star Fortress pilots, just being able to drop bombs after you execute a maneuver, akin to the way bombs were originally dropped in First Edition, and just being able to have that failsafe for if you don't know what your opponent's going to do, you can just have that fallback option to drop bombs afterwards and sort of mess with your opponent's plans. So that change going down I like. Ben Teen, he's the one that assigns the rattle condition. He's going down from 63 to 61. I mean, the rattle condition is great, but only if you have a lot of bomb support in it. Now, when Resistance was part of the Rebel faction in First Edition, you could get away with that because you had Y-Wings, K-Wings, and if you messed around with Sabine enough, it was actually a pretty good idea. But in Second Edition, the only thing that can drop bombs on the Resistance side is the Star Fortress, so as such, this change really isn't going to help him see too much play. Then Venny, while you defend, if the attacker is in a friendly ship's turret arc, you may add 1 focus to your result to your roll, excuse me. He's going down from, or he or she, I don't know, is going down from 62 to 60. Now, originally at first I'm like, that the only ship in this faction that has a turret arc is the bomber, but then I remembered the A-Wings have a turret arc. And knowing that in mind, it actually is an interesting thing, because you could possibly run Venny with like a swarm of Green Squadron experts or Blue Squadron recruits, or maybe throw in one of the uniques in there. And it could make for a pretty interesting, like, killbox swarm list. And just, it'd be interesting, but you'd have to have the right stuff to modify your focus results, which could be kind of hard, because I don't think there's too many things out there that do that anymore. But we'll see if people can figure something out or not. Then Cat is moving from 59 to 57. And again, similar to Benteen, she really relies on bomb support. And like I said, the Star Fortress is the only thing that can drop bombs in this faction, so not really too big on that one. And then the Cobalt Squadron Bomber, going from 58 to 56, opens up room for some extra bombs, but it's not really going to help just because a PS1 bomber, your opponent can play around it a little bit, so not too happy or not too excited on that one. Really, the only one I'm in favor of is the only two I'm in favor of are Venny with an A-Wing Swarm and then Edon Capel, just because his ability is pretty freaking good. So, moving over to the RZ2 A-Wing, all of these are actually no, two of the uniques are going up, the other two are staying the same, and two are going down. So, starting off with Lulo, she's going up from 38 to 43, so that's a pretty big jump, and it makes sense. She was easily the best of the pilots, and having a that ability in combination with stuff like Trick Shot and Heroic definitely needed to have a higher price point to it. Otherwise, it was just going to be abused way too much. Then Talasan, Lintra, Tally, whatever you want to call her, going up from 35 to 36. She was definitely the second most popular behind Lulo, so bringing her up a little bit. So definitely gonna help maybe balance her out a little bit. That one I still have to figure out. Greer and Zari aren't changing. Greer really didn't need it. Zari really didn't need it. In fact, I think Zari could have gone down a couple of points just because she was easily the least played of all the RZ2 pilots. But then the generics, speaking of, actually no, they're going up, excuse me, my bad. Wow, I completely misread that. So the Green Squadron Expert going up from 34 to 35. Blue Squadron Recruit going up from 32 to 33. Not too sure about that one because the generics I don't think we're really seeing any play unless I'm just absolutely blind, so correct me if I am, but that change I'm not really too keen on just because it makes no sense. The other two generics changing I am definitely keen on. Greer not changing, fair enough. Zari not changing, yeah, it's okay, but definitely maybe could have used a drop by a point or two. Moving over to the scavenged YT-1300, all of these are going down. So Han is going down from 76 to 71. I mean, the fact that you can be deployed essentially almost anywhere on the board is great, but it's going to result in you taking a lot of flack early on, and the fact that it can't really defend that well does hurt it quite a bit. Ray going down from 80 to 73. This I like just because I've seen Ray popping up in a few lists lately at events I've been going to, or at least casual open play nights. And she's definitely kicked some rear end with the right combination of upgrades. So that is one I really like, in combination with that one new crew, especially from the Resistance Transport that can remove all your stress tokens on a blue maneuver. That plus Ray is amazing, so that change I really like. Then Chewie going down from 72 to 68. It's okay, but similar to Avenger, it relies on friendly ships being destroyed, and with Resistance being in a very elite faction as well, not really going to get triggered too often, even though you do get an action and an attack with Chewie. So, yeah, it's okay, but not really going to help too much. And then the generic Resistance Sympathizer going from 68 to 67. Not really a big enough drop to warrant any sort of like increase in play, and it's a generic freighter, so probably not really going to help too much. So then we move to the iconic ship of the Resistance, the T-70 X-Wing. So going through the list here, starting with the 5 pilots that didn't see changes. Poe didn't see changes. Makes sense. He's the best T-70 pilot. There was no argument for him seeing a points increase or decrease. Elo's not seeing any changes, fair enough. Also a pretty popular pilot, but not too popular to warrant an increase, or not less popular to warrant a decrease. 9 Num, similar story. Snap, I think, could have gone down a couple of points because he really wasn't seeing too much play, but he has a cool ability, I will admit. And him going down could open up a little more room for Prime Thrusters, since him and Prime Thrusters is actually still a pretty fun combo. And then finally, Lieutenant Bastion didn't go anywhere, and fair enough. Similar to Elo and 9, he was seeing on and off play at just the right amount to not warrant any changes. But then we go through all the things that did see changes, and there's like 12 pilots for this, so around 7 pilots did see changes. So starting off with Karakun, who is the one that allows you to use the turn template for a boost. I mean, it's okay, but it's situational at best, and you don't want to be paying over a quarter of your list for a situational effect like that. So not too big on it, and I didn't mention this, she's going down from 53 to 52. The generic Black Squadron Ace also going down by 1 from 50 to 49. I mean, it's okay, but it really doesn't open up too much in terms of synchronicity pieces with this, so we'll see how that pans out. Jess going down from 52 to 51. Similar story here, doesn't really open up too much room for more synchronicity pieces. Maybe room for an astromech with non-recurring charges, but we'll see how that pans out as well. Sea Striker, the one where you lose a shield, gain an evade token. And assuming the wording is for each shield you lose, gain an evade token, that's a pretty potent effect and should definitely still stay at a higher price point. But that's assuming that's the way the effect reads, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. If that's the way it reads, I'm fine with it only going down by 1 point. Otherwise, not too sure about that one. Red Squadron Expert also going down by only 1 point. I mean, it's better than the Black Squadron Ace just because it offers a bit more utility at a lower pilot skill, but still not too sure about that. J. Chris Tubbs, after you... Okay, so this is a stress-removing effect. So this is a nice pairing with, like, Rey, but considering Rey now has that one crew that allows you to remove all, what's her name? Catal... No, it's not Catal Connix. It's, I don't remember the name of it. Corcella, that's what it is. Corcella. So now that Rey has that to just remove all of her stress tokens to synchronize better with the Rey's Millennium Falcon title, J. Chris isn't as useful, but it could still be useful if you're flying a third ship and want to help out with like Lulo or something. So, and then finally the Blue Squadron Rookie going down from 46 to 45 opens up maybe room for one more thing, since this as a PS1 utility blocker / attacker with the weapon hardpoint upgrade, it could do a lot of things, so it going down by 1 point, I don't mind too much. And that was everything for the Resistance in First Order. I get a feeling that maybe I was a little more hot take-ish with that, but I'm not too sure. Resistance and First Order are definitely the factions I have the least experience with, especially Resistance. First Order I know a little more about from previous First Edition experience and seeing a few lists floating around. Resistance, really all I have to go on is seeing a couple of lists floating around here or there, and occasionally what my one of my buddies, Cole, who you'll see on the channel hopefully soon, tells me about them. So limited, but I think I definitely at least managed to get the grasp about why everything changed the way they did. So hopefully everything I said was understandable, and if you disagree with me on anything, again, there's a comment section down there, but please keep it civil. And if you enjoyed what you see here, you know standard YouTube protocol. I'm not going to say it because I know you're annoyed with every other YouTuber saying it. And we're almost done here. Now we just got to cover the Republic, the Separatists, and the generic upgrades that saw changes, and then we'll be done for this update finally. So hopefully you enjoyed what you see here, and we'll see you for the next analysis video or possibly a battle report. Yeah, that's coming soon possibly. So peace out.